powered by Riverside. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Scene Subplots and Side Quest podcast. It's me, Joshua Awesome, and my humble co host. I think I still have you muted. Hold on. My humble co host.
Chris CKJ. How's it going, everybody?
All right. We have a fun episode today. We are going to be talking about the new Demon Slayer movie coming out, Infinity Castle, and like our last bit with the last movie we saw, we're gonna kind of talk a little bit about how we can be inspired for our TTRPG or tabletop games, D&D, and the like. So we're gonna spend the first half of the episode talking about Demon Slayer and our expectations for the movie. And on the back half of the episode, we're going to go ahead and talk about how we can be inspired, how we can use the world of this property in building something with our TTRPGs. So before we jump into it, just a friendly reminder to everybody, we are going to be talking spoilers for the Demon Slayer series. So yeah, if you haven't caught up to get to where we're at in the movie, you might want to wait until you're ready to see the movie to listen in on the episode. But what we're going to do is we're going to start out with a little recap of the series. We're going to talk about, Chris and I's familiarity with Demon Slayer, some of the characters, what we like, what we don't like, some of the differences between the anime and the manga. And then we'll jump into how we can kind of make this our own for TTRPG and whatnot. I run our games for D&D, so we'll likely relate it to a lot of that. And yeah, let's go ahead and just jump into it. Let's go ahead and get started. Chris, why don't you give us a little recap of where we're at in Demon Slayer thus far? Like, take us from the beginning and bring us to the current arc.
Sounds like a plan, man. So, to start us off, we have our main protagonist, Tanjiro. Oh, and also keep in mind, I'm also going to pronounce a lot of these names incorrectly and may say them, improperly. So don't give me too much flack. And if so, just tell me how to say it correctly later on. But anywho, our main protagonist, Tanjiro Kamoto, he is the youngest, or not youngest, but the oldest brother of his family. And essentially, as he's going out to collect wood, he comes back to his house and he finds out that everyone has been slaughtered by a demon, and he sees one of his siblings, his younger sister, Nezuko, and as he goes to check on her, she's a demon. She tries to attack him and tries to kill him, but he's able to um, get some help from this demon slaying corpse, which is essentially people who go out and slay demons like Nezuko. And with a little bit of convincing, they were able to save Nezuko and join the demon slaying corpse. And they begin their training to become learning water breathing, which is Urukadokai. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong, but that's just how I'm going to say it. Now, that takes us through season one. After season one, we got the Mugen Train arc. And essentially, after forming some bonds with two folks, his friends Inosuke and Zenitsu, Tanjiro teams up with a flame Hashira, which is the name of these demon slayers of the top of the class elite. And teams up with them is Rengoku. And in their Mugen Train, essentially, they fight a lower demon rank, which his name is Imu, and then the higher rank demon, Azuka. And essentially, after a huge, intense battle between the upper demon and Rengoku loses his life in a very epic and amazing battle, which I was like, damn, that's crazy. After that whole emotional arc, we go into the next one, the entertainment district arc. And essentially, after forming some bonds with Zenitsu and Inosuke, they go to meet the sound Harishai Tengu Usai. And from there, they try to figure out what demon is holding this entertainment district hostage and how to kill him. And as the story progresses, we meet the lower ranked demon Daki, which is the sister, and then the upper ranked demon Gyutaro. And after a huge battle with Tanjiro being poisoned and them sacrificing, they were able to convince the demons, like, hey, not everything is so bad. You both have each other. So they sacrifice themselves by going into a fire. And then that's what leaves the Sound Harashai retiring from demon slaying to live with his three wives. Crazy, he has three wives, not gonna lie. And then that takes us to the next season, the Swordsmith arc. And in this one, we have Tanjiro going into this village to repair his sword because it got broken during the last Battle Entertainment arc. And then from there, he learns a little bit more about the Love Harashai Mitsuri, if I'm saying that correctly. They battle the Upper Moon. Um, let's see if I remember correctly. It's pronounced Hatengu, and both Harashai display immense power fighting that upper demon, which is kind of crazy. Tanjiro discovers the more about sun breathing, which is a whole different, sword style than what he's used to. And then Nezuko also evolves in this, and she's able to stand in the light. And I may have not talked about this, but demons are very similar to like a vampire, where if they go into the sunlight, they'll be destroyed and killed. So her walking into the sun and being able to survive is a miracle.
Big moment. Yeah.
Big moment. Yeah. So it was like, whoa, crazy. No one expected that. Now, not only did that shock the humans, that shocked the demons. Our big bad named Muzai saw this and was like, hey, instead of trying to create one, I'm going to steal Nezuko and create a cure to survive in the sun. Now everyone's in a race to try to cure and hide Nezuko so that way no one can get her to use it for nefarious purposes, which leads us into the training arc. And then from there, we've got Muzan learning about his ultimate goal about becoming, using Nezuko to become sunproof and truly immortal, to be perfect. And then that's when we get into the Infinity Castle, where pretty much as they try to fight Muzan in this house by the leader of the, if I remember her, Shai or one of the families, he traps them all and sends them into the Infinity Castle, and that's where the movie picks off.
Yeah, right after that, Hashira training arc, it kicks off, and that's where we're at with this current movie. And what's your familiarity with Demon Slayer? Have you watched all the anime and read the manga? Have you just read the manga? Where are you at with this, Chris?
Funny enough, a lot of the times I'm both the manga reader and then the anime watcher. This one, I'm specifically an anime watcher. So everything I know is just from the anime, which has been pretty good. I've been really
We're the
surprised by it.
opposite then. Yeah, we're the opposite because I have read all the manga and I've watched most of the anime, but not all the anime.
Hmm.
It's just one of those things where time got ahead of me and I haven't been able to catch up. I did rewatch the first episode in its entirety with my dad recently, who's not an anime watcher.
Nice.
And I wasn't able to
Nice.
get him hooked, but he didn't, it wasn't bad to him. I just don't think animation's really his style.
That's fair.
So there was that. And, it really picks up like a lot of animes. I feel not every one of them starts like hooks you in the very beginning. Sometimes it takes a couple episodes to world build, to get into the protagonist, the antagonist, like get into really what their motives are before you can get really bought in. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I
Totally.
am mainly a manga reader. I've read the entirety of the series, but I read it when it like first came out.
Okay.
Before, I started picking it up before it became an anime, and then it finished around, I think, the first or second series, if memory
Yeah, it's
serves.
somewhere around there.
Yeah, but it's been a minute for me, so I'm excited. Before I hit up the movie, I'm definitely going to go ahead and try and watch the last arc that I haven't seen. But
Totally.
you've watched all of it up until the movie, right?
Yeah. Like one of the things that I, really enjoy is like the story is pretty like straightforward, simple. It's nothing complex. It gets you hooked in with the whole death of the family and the sister. And then the animation is just gorgeous. Like there's very few anime out there that I will say rival Demon Slayer in animation. And I'm just like very much agreeing with that statement because every time they do the water breathing or the sun breathing or their different arts looks amazing and top tier.
Yeah, I mean, even in the manga, the art for those breathing techniques is like crazy intricate and cool. It's what kind of drew me into, and I think what drew a lot of people into Demon Slayer. It's got a lot of style, right?
Yeah,
So, and
totally.
they expanded on it too. Like the manga, I feel like moves a lot faster, whereas they really paced the beginning to set up Tanjiro a little better. Like you get a good sense
Mhm.
of his like nature. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I feel like with a story like that, seeing how many chapters there are in the manga, I've looked at it and it's not crazy long like other series. So they have to definitely draw out a lot more character and spread things out a little bit more to make it easier for people to kind of relate to, but understand the characters a lot better. So I could see that being the case.
Yeah, they really draw on Tanjiro's empathy and his
Oh,
emotional
yeah.
connection. One thing though is the anime definitely makes more of a fool of Zenitsu. I mean, he's the comedic relief in the
Yeah.
manga as well, but it's like very exaggerated, I feel like, in the anime, which makes sense.
Yeah, because I feel like there's always got to be that over exaggerative character, because I think that's just kind of the trope in anime. Sometimes it works for a lot of series, and other times you're just like, okay,
Eh.
that's pushing it. Like, he's too goofy, but then when he locks in, he can lock in. So, there's kind of that little offset.
Yeah, yeah. And I think adding to the visual component as compared to like the manga into the anime for a lot of things, like it adds to help build like the emotional weight, I suppose, of a lot of the characters and their journey and stuff like that. I guess I'll have to talk a little bit more about the manga differences as compared to the anime since I'm more familiar with both. And we've kind of gone through the first two arcs with their like first mission and the final selection where they're in the and what I love too is like there's when you're reading the manga and they talk about a character with drums embedded into them,
Mhm.
it's different than actually like seeing it and hearing it visually. Like they did a really good job as to really build the world and get you immersed with the type of demons that they're slaying in the very beginning.
Oh, yeah, totally. Like in the more recent season, they have that. I'm gonna forget his name, but I'll look it up in a second. The demon who's like the fourth strongest of the upper demon moons.
He's like the
And
pot.
like every time they
Yeah.
try to kill him, he splits into different emotions and different, people. I'm like, oh my god, that's visually looking cool, which I can imagine looks a lot different in the manga compared into the anime.
Yeah, and like there was a lot of mystery with the Hashiras when you're reading the manga because you don't get the sense of the color palette of each of them. Everything's like black and white until they get covers, and then you can kind of see because the color palettes of them also like really lean into their personalities and stuff. But that's what
Right.
you get off the bat, I think, in the anime, which is really really awesome. Um, and you get to really like you only get to see the one in the very beginning, the water Hashira, right? And then you expand on that as the arcs introduce the different Hashiras and their capabilities and whatnot. Um,
Right.
but yeah, you get that right off the bat in the anime where you don't quite like you're just wondering what they are, but you get a better sense of, like obviously the red haired dude is going to be the flame Hashira, right?
Right.
Rengyoku.
Right.
And you get a sense of what everybody else kind of is based off of that color palette, which that's what I love about the anime versus the manga. A lot of times you're only going to get that on the cover, you know?
Right. Totally. And another thing, like I've read so many mangas and all that, but one thing I like what an anime does really well is show like emotion, like real extreme fear. Because anytime a Hashira shows like any intense type of style that's familiar to what Muzan expected, which was so crazy that it's burned into all their DNAs. Like that's so much different in animation than in manga that I'm like, that is really well done to get you into that fear and their distress of that, you know?
Right. It's kind of like in a comic book movie, like you may love or hate Snyder's style, but there are certain moments in his direction that are ripped directly from the panel, right? And when you get those
Mhm.
moments, if you've been a reader, you're like, oh, whoa, you're kind of in awe
Yep.
of it. And I think the anime does a good job as to make very awe-inspiring moments, especially within the battles.
Oh, totally. Especially like the fight with Rengoku and Asuka. I believe
Yeah,
that's how
the
I
the
pronounce
entire
it.
Mugen Train arc is visually
Oh,
stunning.
so good.
That's why
Oh
they
yeah,
made
and
it into a
then
movie. I mean, in the manga, it was like a short arc and there was definitely an emotional weight, but the anime did a really good job of adapting that and making that emotional weight even more impactful.
yeah, because like the whole scene, and again, spoiler warnings, but like the entire scene of him have a hole through his chest by a hand and holding it there, just using his muscles, trying to cut off the demon's head. He's like, nah, I'm gonna cut off your head or you're gonna burn alive from the sun. And he just rips his arms off and runs away. And then the last scene of him seeing his mother, all that hits different so hard.
Yeah, yeah, no, it was so well done. It was truly well done in terms of bringing the panels to life. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, 100%.
And then after that, they move into the entertainment district where a lot of the fight scenes were exaggerated in the anime, right? They're just a little longer than what they were in the manga. And there was like a lot of cool uh co-op, you know what I mean? Like they're working
Oh yeah.
together, the demon slayers.
Yeah, like Tanjiro and then the Winter Shy Tengen was so good, like, hey, Tanjiro's keeping the Upper Moon Demon at bay while Tengen is trying to recover from being poisoned, and then he comes in with his dual swords and goes crazy sicko mode. And then one thing Tanjiro's really good at is in the anime space, talk no jutsu. How he convinces his sister and brother of the demons, like, hey, you guys love each other, even if you're demons, and you guys got to look out for each other. And then they're like, you're right. We only have each other after we've had a crummy life growing up. And that just convinces them to just leave and go, be in peace by death. And that just hits different.
Yeah, and then Nezuko kind of berserk mode.
Oh yeah, sicko
First
mode.
trying to protect Tanjiro, right? Like you get the sense in the anime as it translates from the manga, like you get a better sense of the rage, like a demonic bloodline, as well as the desire to protect Tanjiro, kind of like at the same time.
Yep.
Which, that's kind of what sets Nezuko apart from any other demon is that the willpower to still it's like what Tandra was saying about love, right? Like it's that sibling love that's really keeping Nezuko's demon at bay, which is crazy.
Oh yeah, for sure. They do a really good job just showing the sibling love between them. Him carrying his sister in that box and just overall taking care of each other even before she was turned.
Yeah, and then pretty much from here on, the manga moves incredibly fast and doesn't even have an entire season of this show. But the Swordsmith arc was pretty quick in the manga as compared to the anime. The anime milked a whole season out of it, whereas it could have been another kind of movie if they followed more closely to the manga, but they added a lot more original scenes this time, kind of setting the stage for the next season as compared to the manga.
Right. Yeah, because like I could tell like a lot of this episodes were a little bit slower, a little bit more focused on the characters, which sometimes it's nice, but other times you don't want to, go too long with the episodes or the season because then a lot of people are like, well, what's the point? The only important stuff happened at the end of the season. You know what I mean?
Right, right. And then the entire Hashira training arcs that was skipped over almost entirely in the manga, and this is pretty much an entire season of original anime work. Some may call it filler, but it really helps expand on the world. But I
Hmm.
feel like, and this is the one I haven't watched, but I haven't watched it because I'm like, oh man, this is going to be the biggest deviation. It's like, I wonder if this is going to be like how the boys deviated so greatly from the original work, but still kept the tone and spirit of the original, I think, concept of like the boys. So this is the one where I was like, almost afraid to watch it because I wonder if I'm going to be able to, is it going to feel like completely filler or is it going to feel like it belongs,
I would say again, like I haven't read the manga, but I would say you're in the right mindset of thinking it's a little bit more filler. Now, that's only like in the beginning and middle, but like when it gets to the end of the season, that's where it kicks off the Infinity Castle, and you're like, okay, shit's real. Let's go.
Well, that's probably where it gets back into the manga, right? Where it catches back up in the manga because like every Tanjiro interaction with the Hashira during training is its own, I think, like what episode, whereas I feel like it's just a few panels in the manga. It's like barely really touched on at all.
Yeah, I would say so, just because, I feel like they definitely stretched that quite a bit in the different episodes.
Now, who's your favorite character in Demon
Mm.
Slayer?
That's a tough one, but one I always go to is Inosuke. Man, he's just so funny, so crazy, and so, off the wall that my favorite type of character for sure.
You
And his swords are
you
so
play a
different.
barbarian in our D&D campaign, so that does not surprise me at all, truly.
And then I just love how they fashion him a new sword. He gets a rock and then just breaks the
He
blade so
starts
that way it
chiseling it.
hooks. Yeah. I'm like, that is such a cool character. I just love him. And then the fact that he wears a boar's head to hide his pretty face, because he's a very pretty character and he's like all about being wild and crazy. And I just like that dynamic.
Yeah.
Um, what was your favorite character, Josh?
I mean, I'm drawn to two characters. Tanjiro, of course, the main character. I love his sibling love. I love what he's trying to do to keep his remaining family. I feel like his motivations are pretty sound. He wants to avenge his family. He wants to stop demons from hurting people. There's that like little mix. He's like a mix of Batman and Superman. He's like Batman with the skills and the drive, and Superman with the morality and empathy. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But I see, and this is where I'm like, I like the manga a little bit better than the anime in terms of this, but Zenitsu. Because Zenitsu's
Oh,
just he doesn't understand his power. He doesn't understand what's kind of been beaten into him. And when you get the flashbacks of him and his like sensei, who was also a former Hashira of lightning, he's trying to build Zenitsu up,
mhm,
whereas he thinks he's weak. He doesn't understand that his base is like the strongest base, right?
right.
Um, she may only have a jab, but it's like the best jab in the business, right? It's like
Oh, yeah.
Muhammad Ali with the jab. He has perfected
Yep.
it to the point where he doesn't even realize how powerful it is. And this is where in the anime I've been waiting to see visually. And it's probably not going to come until the second movie. I don't know if they're going to lead off with everybody's moments because each of them are going to get a moment, right? Like
Oh
that.
yeah.
I just think
Hmm.
cinematically and theatrically, uh, we all know, hopefully, that each of the main characters in this, and I'm going to include all the Hashiras in it too. They're all going to have some sort of moment, whether it's good or bad. We don't know yet until we see the movie. But they're going to have a moment. And that's kind of my expectation for the movie as well, is they'll have moments. But I'm wondering if it's going to be spread out through the entire trilogy of movies or if it's going to be all in this one, because there is a lot of action that's going to happen. I feel like it's going to be a lot of back to back fight scenes or intersplicing between fight scenes. But man, there's I just know through the manga that anybody who loved the Zenitsu, when he was fighting the spiders, the
Yeah.
spider demon, like if you like that Zenitsu moment, you're gonna love what's gonna be coming up for Zenitsu in the future. And that's all I would just say without spoiling it. But Zenitsu is one of my favorite characters. Now, I already mentioned, like, I want there to be moments for every Hashira and Inosuke, Zenitsu, and Tanjiro and Nezuko. Like, everybody's gonna have a moment. What are your expectations of this movie? What do you hope we get to see?
I'm just hoping, like you said, we get a moment, but it's satisfying, right? It kind of brings up their past struggles and all their effort they put into this exact moment and executing it at a perfect moment and at the right time. And, I want them to face a upper moon demon that really challenges them, not only physically, but mentally, right? Like Muzan and probably like Tanjiro, like, hey, I'm gonna kill you and I'm gonna use your sister as an experiment to make me truly immortal, and you can't stop me, right? I want to see that type of thing. Or Zenitsu or Inosuke fighting their own and them being challenged like that to their demon. And I just kind of expecting that, but also a really good spectacle, right? Of great animation, but also that emotional feel that we've seen and felt throughout the series.
Yeah, and something I hope they do that we didn't get in the manga is I hope they expand on some of the upper moons and their backstories more, because I think they did a really good job of that in the
Mhm.
previous demons that have been fought. And I mean, how much? Essentially, this is gonna be like maybe what 12 episodes of like a season. Like each episode is about 30 minutes, right? So if this movie is about an hour and a half to 2 hours long, hopefully we're getting about 12 episodes worth of content. And I feel like they're going to be able to expand and hopefully tell panel to panel the story and the ending. um I think they're probably going to go even harder and really expand the manga, which is what I'm hoping for. I hope they really like play around with the animation
Mhm.
and stuff like that. I mean, the castle is a great like inspiration for D&D, like an infinite castle of many different rooms, each holding like
Oh,
a different demon or boss that also might
yeah.
have the room have its own trick or puzzle. I think that would be interesting. Are there any? Well, I guess yeah, that would be my like wish for changes from the manga to the anime is that they expand more. Like I don't mind expansion on the world building in that way.
Right, right. Yeah, because I hope we maybe explore a little bit of the different rooms in the Infinity Castle, because that looks like a cool ass place that I would love to see explored more.
Right. Now, let's just go ahead and jump into something that we do that might be a little bit more unique than other podcasts or whatnot. Is that, you're a player in one of my D&D campaigns, and I am a DM, and I'm constantly looking for ways of inspiration in terms of maybe world building, maybe taking something that looks cool and finding out how I can make that maybe a mechanic in my games. But let's go ahead and kind of take the property of Demon Slayer and how we can use it as inspiration in TTRPGs. as a DM, one of the things is the world is dope, and I think it makes for a good TTRPG because you got to have a hierarchy of bad guys. That makes it really easy for you to present the players with, all right, this guy's a level 12 bad guy. He's pretty weak. If you want to get up to the upper bad guys, those guys are going to be crazy. It might take a
Mhm.
trio of swordsmen to take them out. But I love the fact that there's kind of like a hierarchy of enemies that's very easily defined. And
Mhm.
I love the time period in which they use. And what I would think of in terms of world building similarly to Demon Slayer is to take a specific like time period and use that as the basis of your D&D world. And it can span from medieval times to where you have that classics like fantasy adventure. You could do the industrial era and make it more like steampunk and like Eberron and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, D&D's done some cool things with like their partnerships with Magic the Gathering, where you kind of have like a crazy large city in Ravnica, or you have like a Greek mythology inspired world like Mythic Odysseys of Theros. So there's ways of adapting different regions and their historical time periods and making it into this crazy fantasy world. Like if you were to take an era and place, like what would you want to play as or play in as a player, Chris?
I would kind of like this era that they're currently in Demon Slayer because it's like technology has started to pick up, but not like overpowered with guns or muskets, you know? Like a train exists, but it's nothing like overpowered, in my opinion. So I think it's a great place where the culture's developed a lot more and people are a little bit more aware of the broader world rather than their own country or continent, which is really cool. So that way you get different weapons and meet different people, different cultures. So I like that type of time period. But as far as like some of the characters go, I would kind of like to see them as like a fighter mixed in kind of like with a monk. And what
Yeah,
I
let's
mean
talk
by that
about
is,
yeah,
oh yeah,
let's
go
talk
ahead.
about class, right? Classes, because that's what I would ask too. You're talking about a fighter monk, like a hybrid, which they used to
Hmm.
have in D&D, right?
Oh,
So there's certain classes that could only be unlocked if you were reach a certain level in this class and a certain level in that class, and you could unlock a whole new type of class, right? So I thought about this in terms of classes and like how would you bring the sword styles? Would it be a subclass? Would it be its own class? So you're thinking you would want to mix classes because
yeah.
I was thinking about monks with the demon monk, right? Like uh, the upper moon, who's a battle junkie, and he's just all about fighting with his bare fists. Like that's one way of introducing like a kind of hybrid. So that's what you would want is like a hybrid class.
Yeah, because I mean, don't get me wrong, the sword style is great, but like the water breathing or the sun breathing, every time you use that, you use like a equivalent of a key point or a resource point, and you would do extra damage, or you would do a type of elemental damage, or something along those lines to do actual damage to a demon. Because if I remember correctly, the whole visual thing that's all for the anime or all for the manga, but in reality, they're just swinging their swords really damn hard and really damn fast, right?
Right.
Um, and it's all just about breathing and the technique. So I think incorporating the visuals to an actual mechanic using like a resource point like key would be really cool, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think like you could take a martial class and add a breathing style as its subclass, right? So you could take
Mhm.
maybe like Tanjiro almost has a paladin feel. He's like made an
Yeah.
oath to uh take vengeance for his family or bring his family justice, but he's also an empathetic character who won't break his moral ground and stuff like that.
Yep.
So like there's different ways too of maybe making a class have a breathing style subclass, right?
Totally. Yep.
But I think I would probably so if I were to adapt it into existing D&D, I would definitely make it a subclass into something like fighter, into something like ranger, and maybe have the different breathing styles associated to that class. Maybe like serpent breathing could be a rogue subtype. Maybe uh water breathing, could be like fighter subtype. Monk could also have that. It already kind of has that with a lot of its like the elemental attacks and stuff like that.
Right.
But I think in order to really get all the breathing styles, if I were to do it on my own, I'd probably, if I wasn't, using existing D&D, I would make my own breathing class and have each different style as a different subclass. And maybe even have it like, the class be called sun breathing, because sun breathing is supposed to be the mother form. It's supposed to be the origin form of all the other breathing styles, right? And then
Right.
have the subclasses be sun breathing, serpent breathing, stone breathing, water breathing, etc.
Yep.
And maybe even have an unlockable OG sun breathing, kind of like what Tanjiro
Mm,
gets. And then I was thinking too, the demonic styles, right?
yeah.
Because maybe Nezuko isn't the exception to the rule. Maybe any demon could have the willpower and introduce a mechanic that leads them to either keeping their humanity or succumbing to their demonic bloodline. And I was thinking
Right.
sorcerer might be a good one
Ooh.
because they're tuned in. It's like they've gotten converted.
Right.
Warlock, maybe they like went
Mm,
to a Muzan type and got demon powers on purpose,
yep.
and stuff like that. Which also, you could also have its own demon subclass, like class, and then have the type of demon be the subclass as well.
Right. Totally.
Right. And you could even use normal D&D cosmology and have demons like Baphomet or uh Grazit and stuff like that, and maybe create a bloodline subclass based off of the demon lords.
That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, because I was gonna say a lot of the demons you can go different routes, kind of like a warlock path, right? Because they had such a crappy life.
Yes.
One of the demons or demon lords is just like, I'll give you power, but you just got to be a full-on demon and do all this crazy stuff. But mix that in with like a fighter class, which, some of them could do, or a monk class, which could be pretty cool.
Yeah, draw inspiration from those classes when you make like your own unique custom class. Now,
Exactly.
if you were to, so we talked about creating a new class, the breathing styles, and like in the show itself, you could really lean into the methodologies from each style, like
Mhm.
breathing being fluid and adaptable, breathing being aggressive and passionate, wind breathing being chaotic and forceful and stuff like that,
Mhm.
and thunder breathing emphasizing on speed, precision, and power. uh if you were to base a character, like create a D&D character based off of that character, who would you choose? I'm assuming Inosuke. Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely choose a Nosuke. But if I could choose like a breathing style that's different, I would choose the lightning style just because, power, precision, and speed. That just seems perfect. You know what I mean? For that type of character. At least that's what I would like to do.
Yeah, some sort of wild beast that can control using lightning and speed.
Exactly. Just concentrate on all fours or just all in the legs and then just go speed with the arms and just go full on animal.
Now, like, what personality traits would you take? Would it be all Inosuke? Would you like in a Demon Slayer-esque world? What would be the backstory? What's the drive?
I always kind of like the avenge or the revenge type of deal because you can always fall into the anti-hero villain or true hero type of character. So like keep going down vengeance, you keep killing demons, and then before you know it, what separates you from a demon? You know, like when you stare at the abyss stares back, right? I always like that type of character, or very much like an anti-hero, kind of like the Punisher, right? He'll do anything to get the mission done or to make his vengeance, hit that person directly. So I would like to have that kind of, personality. And as far as the backstory goes, just like a, very humble family, nothing crazy. And then just one day he just sees a village massacre his entire family, kind of like Tanjiro, or even worse, an entire village. And he tries to stop him, and the demon just smacks him, like, what are you gonna do? You can't do nothing. And then just lets him live with survivor's guilt and just say, too bad.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that Punisher-esque is kind of like Tanjiro, but on the flip side,
Yep.
where he wants vengeance, but he wants it brutally type of deal.
Yep.
Now,
Exactly.
I feel like I would probably like to make a Zenitsu like Jekyll and Hyde, where he has a certain personality when he's full of life, but if he ever gets backed into a corner, the personality might change. Like the moment
Yeah.
he's below half health, he becomes a little bit more brutal and more cognizant of his power, or her
Hmm.
power. You know what I mean? And I feel like to go with that, I would probably want to go with flame breathing, like
Nice.
be very, and maybe even have two different breathings. Have like water breathing when you're full health and like you're more defensive. But then and you shouldn't be, I feel like you should be defensive when you're low on health and more aggressive when you're full on health, but flip that on its head where you have the defensive style when you're full on health. But the moment you get to low health, you become aggressive and you're like, you hurt me, I'm going to hurt you,
Yeah.
type of deal. Right. I think that would
Totally.
be kind of cool. I guess that would depend on how you want that world to work. If I'm a player, I'd have to double check on my DM, be like, can I have like two different classes that activate when certain conditions are met? Kind of like a werewolf transferring or something like that.
Oh, that'd be pretty cool.
Or even like maybe beast breathing would work with that type of like you start out with a normal breathing and then when you activate your critical health or whatever, you
Mhm.
activate beast breathing and it completely changes all your techniques.
Ooh, that would be a cool mechanic for sure.
Now, if you were running a campaign or you wanted your character and have like a good plot hook, what would be the big plot hook that you'd like to see or be a part of?
I would just like to see somebody come on in and just either being an overwhelming force by power or political power, meaning they do something so terrible no one's able to stop them. Say, for instance, they kill the king of this nation and they take over and just make it a pure dictatorship, or they destroy the entire capital, the kingdom that was supposed to protect everybody, gone, everyone's dead.
Okay.
And now it's up to, people who have the will to stand up to that kind of tyranny and that power and say, no, you're not gonna keep, bullying us or keep the people down, and we're gonna stand up no matter how many times you beat us down, get back up and
That's
fight
funny.
for.
That's almost exactly like our current campaign. That's how we open it up. We're playing the Curse of Strahd, and I
I forgot
did
that's how it's
before
like.
doing this. I did talk to the player because one of our players said that they like during our session 0 we did a certain character, and then it's like, actually I want to pivot, and I was thinking about this other type of character, and I said, oh well, why don't we kill off the character that all the players know about during the session 0, so that way it brings big weight to the big bad that I'm introducing, right? So this was done with the
Yeah.
consent of the player, but I essentially introduced Strahd in the first few moments of you guys getting trapped in Barovia, being like, "You're my plaything," and just straight up murdered Vonda,
Yeah.
a character created, and everybody at the table was like, "Oh my god!" And it was a great moment then. But I did let everybody know that I was like, "Hey, because they like felt so bad for the player. I was like, don't worry, this was something that was planned. We did talk about it." And like some DMs might not like want to disclose that because like I don't think it didn't diminish the moment at the time, but it gave comfort to
Yeah.
know that it's like, listen, I'm not, this isn't a chess match between me and the players. Like we did that for narrative purpose to drive the story, right? So
Right.
it's funny that that's how you mentioned you want the big bad to be introduced, because that's like exactly what was done in our current campaign.
Dude, I didn't even put two to two together. That's so funny.
Yeah, yeah. So um when I look at Demon Slayer, what I see in terms of possibilities for plot hooks is to try and incorporate some of those personal tragedies of the player, right? If somebody wants to make that self like that righteous do-gooder, maybe have them have a Tanjiro, maybe have them get introduced to a preacher or a NPC that is the one that murdered their mother, their father, their sister, their cousin, right?
Right.
Maybe they want to play that demonic character. Maybe have them again trying to resist their demonic urges, like Nezuko. Or and they introduced this, I think, in Rime of the Frost Maiden, is maybe be like Zenitsu, where you have a secret, and that secret is you can't unlock your full power unless you're unconscious. So maybe a special
Uh,
trigger happens. They're a glass cannon where they die a lot, but there's a trigger that happens when they fall unconscious. Maybe all of a sudden their every attack is a crit when they're
oh,
unconscious, and they have the ability to still make actions when they're unconscious or something like that.
that could be cool.
With Inosuke, it is trying to, like, if I were to make a character or design an NPC, it would be one that is almost like a rough, nature driven character that is trying to find their humanity through connection, friendship.
Yeah.
And maybe have an NPC that you've designed to drive a character, right? Because like Inosuke has Tanjiro that he kind of looks up to as a fellow peer and warrior. So maybe
Right.
make an NPC like rivalries don't have to always be this guy versus this guy. They're rivals, like Pokemon rivals. And even in Pokemon, it kind of evolved where your rival wasn't always the person that you were trying to beat, but maybe the person that's trying to drive you to be better, like a
Yep.
good Zoom. Uh,
Oh,
because
yeah.
in the Flash, the Reverse Flash, part of his black backstory is she's trying to bring the best out of Barry by putting him into perilous situations, but they don't have to be toxic. It doesn't have to be toxic like that. You can have a guy who's trying to give you the best challenge. I'm training my Pokemon to be strong to train your Pokemon because I believe in you as much as I believe in myself. And you can have a character that's kind of like that, that can help maybe drive your protagonist. And then if
Right.
that character dies to that big bad, that it drives more emotional weight because that's the person that's really been trying to get you there.
Yep.
Um, Now, when we talk about villains, because I feel like having a good villain is what makes a good hero a lot in comic books, but also in like our TTRPGs, right? Our
Right.
games are kind of driven off of that antagonist, kind of like Strahd killing a party member on the first session.
Yeah.
It drove this like fear and this emotional weight, right? Um, What would you like to see in a villain, other than that brutality? But like, what drive do you want the villain to have?
I kind of want to have like
Like, is it just
almost.
world domination, just evil? Like, some people just want, like, I just want an evil guy I can beat up, but some people want more nuance, like a Doctor Doom. Like, what's your preferred antagonist, Chris?
Don't get me wrong, being evil for the sake of evil is kind of a fun, boss to fight, but it's just kind of your stereotypical throw your villain out for world domination. I kind of like a Thanos, right? He thinks he's doing the best for the world, even though what he's doing is the opposite, making it worse, even though he, in his mind, is thinking, I'm doing the hard choices no one is willing to do, which, is a very compelling character. Or they have seen the worst in civilization and in humanity, and their only course of action instead of helping people is getting rid of them, right? Or trying to
Right.
create a better world by getting rid of everybody and only having certain people live. I think those kind of characters not only make you sympathize them with the villains a little bit more, but it also might bring conflict to your character. Be like, well, when you see it like that from that perspective, I don't know if I should go on with my revenge or if I should stop what I'm doing or just say, screw it, what you're doing is wrong, and I'm going to either talk you out of it or fight you out of it. And I think those nuances to a villain would be very interesting and very cool to see.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I agree. I think a villain that has a motivation that's not purely evil, that's maybe just misunderstood, is one of the best villains. Uh, you know, I don't want to get into too much backstory with Muzan, who is like the main villain within Demon Slayer. But you do get a backstory, like way backstory within him. And what I think is really cool, other because I can't really talk about is I don't want to spoil that. I don't want to spoil the. It's one thing letting people in like know spoiler alerts because we're catching up to a thing, but I'm not trying to go beyond the movies right now, right?
Right.
So it's hard to talk about Muzan and like having a relatable villain without completely going through and messing up the entire backstory,
Oh
or
boy.
the story coming up in the movies that might not be touched on in this one. But I will
Right.
say what I love about like what I would want to put into an antagonist based off of Demon Slayer, whether it's like a Thanos like imperative that they believe is right that involves committing some sort of like mass murder or genocide in game or something like that, or they their intentions is to like, well, if orcs and dwarves are continually fighting each other, if we have the population of all dwarfs and orcs, then we half all war or something, you know what I mean?
Right.
um what I would kind of introduce in a Muzan perspective is maybe this antagonist has a weakness, and the characters, either one of the characters or maybe a NPC that they've met has overcome that weakness, right? Like Nezuko being able to bask in the sunlight. And that is something that Muzan has a great interest in. So taking something like that, either interjecting it with PC and putting it as part of their story, right? Like maybe in your world, uh, all tieflings are bound to one of the planes of hell, and you have one tiefling walking free, and a devil wants that ability, and that kind of sets up a big bad who's not just out to save the world, but wants to take something personally from one of the PCs, right?
Right.
Make one of your PCs or NPCs carry or be part of a key or solution. Um, I think that would be a really good way of combining the the backstory with the motivation, having the motivations of the big bad tied to the backstory of an NPC or the group.
Mhm.
Makes total sense. Other things that I thought were cool that I wanted to take inspiration of is maybe not have so have demons, or maybe have the antagonists have a monstrous form, but have been maybe fallen adventurers, just normal people who are so downtrodden that they have to sell themselves, part of themselves. And that could set up dual protagonists, because then you could have maybe the government that's keeping people in poverty, or a local leader, and then have a demon on the side. Like, it's always good to have multiple plot points from,
Mhm.
an A plot, a B plot, and a C plot, and then I'll have them try and kind of converge and stuff like that. So
Right.
there's a lot of different ways you could take that. If there's a upper moon or lower moon or other antagonists in Slayer that you would want to base the big bad off of, what would it be?
Kinda like to see one be like, Akaza, or I think that's how you say it, the
Like the
one
evil
who
monk?
fought the evil monk, right? Because
Yeah.
his whole motivation is try to get stronger, but using his fist and just always trying to fight the next stronger opponent until there's no one, right? Because I would like to
You
see a
sound
big
like you
bad.
want to fight an evil Goku.
I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, that is kind of cool because I mean, you think about it, right? He fights his way to the top and he's, bad. He's like, well, it's so boring at the top. What do I do to, make someone give me a challenge? Kind of like a evil bored Saitama, right? He's so strong, no one can beat him. So how does he do that? He raises someone to be that in the background.
Yeah, yeah. Try. It's kind of like how I want to teach my niece and nephew how to play fighting games and get them good enough to be able to try and come up to me.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, no, totally. I've introduced games to friends like Soul Calibur. I'm like, oh, you should play this game, and then watch them get good, only to have them play me, and oh no, I've been playing this game for a while now, though. So, sorry.
Right. Oh, that's so funny.
Awesome, Chris. Well, I know we're each going to see the movie in the upcoming week at some point. I'm probably going to wait for my local theaters matinee deal day and hit that up. But we had talked about the new Demon Slayer movie, our expectations, what we hope from it. We talked about a lot about how we can take this world and apply it to some of the D&D characters we might make in the future, or mechanics
Mhm.
that we might want to add. I mean, we didn't even talk about the Infinity Castle itself. Maybe we can talk about the castle and how we might be able to adapt the location
Mm.
and add some effects into our D&D games, because I think that's a pretty interesting way to go about it. But if you've stayed to the very end, thank you so much. Truly appreciate you listening. I'm Josh Wassam with my
This is
humble co-host.
Chris CKJ. See you later, everybody.
All right, bye.
Bye.